Now to the continuing contradiction coming out of the White House about this Russia investigation. Moments ago, the president kept silent about it in a photo op with the president of Panama.
Mr. President, are you under investigation by the special counsel? Mr. President, are you under investigation by the special counsel?
That is in contrast to what his personal attorney has been saying all over TV today. Once again, Jay Sekulow went against the president's own words in regards to what special counsel Robert Mueller is investigating. Sekulow repeated that President Trump is not under investigation, despite the president's tweet Friday saying, quote, "I am being investigated for firing the FBI director by the man who told me to fire the FBI director." Witch hunt, although we heard a little later on Friday that was apparently based upon the news reports and not because he directly knows he's being investigated. Here's more now. Sekulow would not explain why he wasn't taking the simple step to actually clear things up. Here's his conversation with my colleague this morning, Chris Cuomo.
If you're going to spend so much time on this, why don't you pick up the phone and get the answer? And then you could actually say, hey, I asked Mueller. He said, no, I'm not. We're not looking at this.
We have a lot of lawyers in this case. I'm just... Look, you're asking me to pick up the phone on an investigation that right now we don't know exists.
No, I'm not. Of course you know it exists. You know Mueller's looking at this. Why didn't you just pick up the phone and find out if it matters so much to the president, whether or not he's being looked at? Find out.
You know there's a difference between investigations, inquiries. I mean, there's a whole series of matters you look at before you get to the level of investigation.
But I'm saying you could get the answer.
I don't know what they're doing. I haven't made that call. That's the end of that line of inquiry.
All right, let's start there. Live with me now, Lanny Davis, who was once a White House counsel under President Clinton. And after he left the White House, he became known as the lead outside surrogate for Clinton throughout his impeachment process. He wrote the book Truth to Tell, Tell It Early, Tell It All, Tell It Yourself, Notes from My White House Education. So he's with us, also with us, CNN senior political commentator Rick Santorum. He is a former Republican U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania. So gentlemen, welcome to both of you. And Lanny, to you first. You know, apparently Jay Sekulow is being called the Lanny Davis for Donald Trump. Don't know if you're aware of that. You can comment in a sec. But, you know, you have all these contradictions coming out. He's going off on the morning shows. You tell me what you would be doing differently.
Well, first of all, I'm going to ruin his reputation at the White House. I've known Jay for a number of years, and we've debated on his radio show, and he's always civil, just as Senator Santorum is. So it's possible to disagree and still be civil. He's got a tough position because of the tweet. If President Trump said, I have the feeling that, reading the Washington Post, I might be under investigation, that would be accurate for President Trump. Why he would want to tweet what he did is the problem. And I sympathize with my old friend Jay. He's a great lawyer who has to defend what is in effect a contradiction in the message that he is truthfully saying is we have no knowledge there's an investigation formally from Mr. Mueller. He's not notified us, and I can't explain my client's statement other than he has a sensation, a feeling that he's under investigation reading the Washington Post, but that's not what he put on 140 characters.
Right. And Senator, similar to you, you know, watching Sekulow come out, you know, it seems like he's sent out by the president to do TV, to be this fighter, to come out swinging. Do you see it as a winning strategy for them?
Look, I don't think it's a winning strategy when you're debating these types of issues instead of debating the issues that got him elected and the American public really cares about. That's not to say that he shouldn't, you know, do what he needs to do from a legal point of view, and certainly politically, you know, bat down things that are not true. But he's not, as Lanny says, he doesn't help himself when he put out a tweet, which, you know, if at the end of that tweet there would have been a question mark as opposed to an exclamation point, which is, you know, I'm being investigated. I mean, this is ridiculous that now they're saying I'm being investigated for this. I think that was the tone. But again, at 140 characters, you don't get context, and there was no context in this. And fighting this battle right now, trying to wage war with Bob Mueller right now, he needs to move on and focus on jobs and the economy and national security. There's a lot going on in the world, and he needs to focus on that.
So they've got this cloud that is Russia, as we've been talking about now for a while, hanging over the White House. Lanny, help clear this up, because I know a lot of people are watching and thinking, well, this is the president. How does he know? How does he not know? It's from my understanding that there is absolutely no obligation by the special counsel, by Bob Mueller, to say to Trump or the Trump circle, whether he actually is under investigation. But if the president, Lanny, if the president wants to find out if he is in fact under investigation, what's the process for him to do so?
Well, he asked Jim Comey, and I think Comey's responding to the question was inappropriate because as the head of the FBI, he's not in a position to advise the president. It's only the Justice Department. So Mr. Comey had a problem with seeing the distinction between himself as an investigator and the people he's supposed to report to at the Justice Department. So there is no process. The president should not be asking his attorney general or Mr. Mueller, the special counsel. He should quite frankly, listen to wise Republicans like former Senator Santorum and focus on what the American people care about and let Mr. Mueller do his job. Now, if he's worried about his own involvement, then that will or won't be found out by Mr. Mueller. I can assure you the truth will come out. But what he needs to do is focus on what people care about, and I don't think it's about his Twitter account, and I sympathize with Jay Sekulow about that Twitter account.
But how do you handle that if your client is the president of the United States who has a propensity to tweet and he himself cannot come out and punch back, so he puts Jay Sekulow out there to do so? What do you do if you're Jay Sekulow and you're talking to the president of the United States?
I have sympathy for Jay. I did work for President Clinton, and there was no Twitter account in those days, but if there were, President Clinton was a lawyer. He was very smart, and that he knew when he came to work in the middle of a lot of his controversies, what the American people wanted was for him to do his job. Despite everything he went through, and I know Senator Santorum loves me to say this, he left office on his last day, despite everything, with a 65% approval rating because he achieved peace and prosperity and jobs. And that's what Donald Trump should be focusing on. He may not be able to. As a Democrat, I only wish any president success because it's about the whole country. He's not helping any of us by the way he's conducting himself on Twitter.
I think Brooke, there's a lesson learned from Bill Clinton for Donald Trump, which is,
what's that?
Bill Clinton was impeached. Now, he wasn't convicted, but he was impeached. And he survived impeachment because impeachment is a political process because he was still popular. He was doing things and delivering a stronger economy and a reduced deficit, and he was conducting his affairs as president through this very difficult time. He stayed focused, and as Lanny will tell you, I mean, we worked on trying to get Social Security reform in the middle of all this. I mean, we were trying to do big things even through this very difficult time. And that's how he survived, and that's how he remained popular. The message.
So your point is, Mr. President, get on message.
Get on message and start delivering for the American public. He's doing a lot of good things, but the public doesn't know about it because, well, we're talking about this instead of talking about the things that he's doing even today. I mean, there are positive stories coming out of the White House. I get them every day. They send them to me, but nobody's talking about them because the president's focused on something else.
No, there's a huge tech summit. We'll be taking it at 5 o'clock Eastern today. It was infrastructure last week. It's technology this week. Let me end, though, with Jared Kushner, Lanny. And here's my question on Kushner. And again, to be perfectly clear, we have no indication as far as, that he's a target. So far, it appears he's not of this whole Russia investigation. But he is looking to hire these criminal litigators to beef up his legal team. We had the news last week of the vice president lawyering up. To me, this is just getting very real.
Look, in this case, I have to admit to having some just personal instinctive like for Mr. Kushner. He comes across to me, though he doesn't speak much, as a nice young man, as his wife is very impressive. And Ivanka and Jared Kushner should be focused on, as I understand, their positions much more moderate than others in the White House. And the fact that he's going through this, I don't know what he did, is quite troubling. And unfortunately, the best thing for him, he's got a great lawyer already in Jamie Gorelick. He should probably have a criminal defense lawyer now that he's under a cloud. But the best thing for him, if he's done nothing wrong, he's already volunteered to go to Congress and testify.
Correct.
And that should be his best course of action. You gave my long ago book a plug with the mantra of the subtitle, tell it early, tell it all, tell it yourself. That's the best way to handle these types of controversies, is transparency with people in your profession.
All right, Lanny Davis and Senator Santorum, gentlemen, thank you very much.